Okay, so let's continue with our AC factoring examples. So the first one we'll take a look at is, factor 4x squared plus 5x minus 6. So if I'm going to use the AC method, then first I want to identify my A, B, and C. A is 4, B is 5, C is negative 6. And so the first step of this process is to figure out AC. So AC is 4 times negative 6, that's negative 24. And then the second step of the process is to find numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to 5. So I always start with the pair of numbers that I work with, and when I write these down, I always write down the proper sign and all that stuff. So since it's going to multiply to a negative 24, I know one's positive, one's negative, but it has to add to be a positive 5. So I'm going to keep the positive on the larger number and the negative on the smaller number. So negative 4 plus 6 is plus 2. So that's too small, so I'm going to increase the 6. So 7 doesn't divide 24, 8 does. So plus 8 minus 3, does that work? Indeed it does. So now I have my pair of numbers. Step 3 is to replace that middle term with the pair of numbers that I found. So I have 4x squared plus 5x minus 6, and I'm going to replace the 5x with these new numbers. It doesn't matter which order you write them, with these two new numbers. And now step 4 is to group and factor. So I look at this, the first two, 4 and 3 don't have any factors in common, but certainly there are x's there, and the least power is x1. So x comes out. That leaves me 4x minus 3, and so I know I must get 4x minus 3 there, and so that means a plus 2 here, because 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And one more step of factoring. 4x minus 3, x plus 2, and we are done. There it is. Let's take out a second example. And this time we'll try to factor 12x squared minus 29x plus 14. So again, step 1. Before we do that, let's identify our A, B, and C. A is 12, B is negative 29, C is 14. And step 1 is to find AC. So AC is equal to 12 times 14, which is 168. And step 2 is to find numbers that multiply to 168 and add to negative 29. Okay, so again I'm going to start with the pair that I have. So that's 12 and 14, and again let's adjust the signs. So this is a positive 168 and that's a negative 29, and the only way that it can be positive 168 when you multiply is if both signs are positive and both sides are negative. So to be a negative 29 addition, they both have to be negative. So negative 26. Close, but doesn't work. So I'm going to start to build up the 14, and the 12 will drop, of course, in order to hopefully arrive at something that's bigger then 26, that's equal to 29. So let's go to 17. 17 does not divide 168. 168. Let's try 18. Doesn't divide 168. Let's try 19. Doesn't divide 168. Let's try 20. Doesn't divide 168. Let's try 21. There it is. So 21 divides, again keep it negative, 8. So those two both multiply to be 168. Negative 8 plus negative 21, that's negative 29, which is exactly what we want. So there is the pair of numbers. So step 3 is to take 12x squared minus 29x plus 14, and now we break up that middle term, right? So the middle term is what we replace. We replace it with the two numbers we have. Again, it doesn't matter which one we use first. And then plus 14. And now we pay group and factor. So from the first two, I look carefully at the 12 and the 8, and certainly a 4 divides this and a 4 divides that. So GCF is going to have a 4 in it. And I look at the x's, and I see x to the 1 right there, and x right there. So GCF is going to have an x in it. So what am I left with? 3x minus 2. And I know that I must get a 3x minus 2 here. There is just no way otherwise. So that means this has to be a 7. Now careful with the signs. So is it a plus 7 or a minus 7, right? So 7 times negative 2 is going to give me a negative 14. So this has to be a negative 7. Right? And it also works with the negative 21. Negative 7 times positive 3, negative 21. So now I do GCF again, and I get 3x minus 2, 4x minus 7. And there is my answer. Step 3, example 3, excuse me. Example 3. In this example, we'll take a look at, so let's see, what have we done? We've done positive, negative, negative, positive. So we'll do two negatives. So we'll do 30x squared minus 22x minus 28. Okay, so this problem has a second little feature to it that we may not be aware of. So remember always that factor means factor completely, right? So factor means factor completely. So always keep yourself open to the fact that there might be a GCF that goes through the whole problem. Now, yes, you can take out the GCF at the end, but think about the AC method. The first thing you're going to do is multiply A and C, and that gives you a pretty big number. If there's a GCF that'll lower that number, make that number smaller, you should go for it. So I am going to certainly do the GCF, overall GCF step first. So GCF, right? So I'm going to look at my 30, and I'm going to think of the ways 30 and 22 and 28 break apart, and I can see that they all break apart on 2. So this is really 2 and 15, and this is 2 and 11, and this is 2 and 14, and that's the only thing they have in common, and the lowest power is 2 to the first, of course, as you can see. So this problem here has a GCF all the way through, so I'm going to take care of that right now. And that immediately makes my problem a little bit easier because the numbers have immediately become a little bit smaller. So now I can start my AC steps. So A, B, and C for me and so AC is equal to 15 times 14, 15 times 14 negative, so that's negative 210. So really I'm looking for numbers now that multiply to negative 210, add to negative 11. Again, I'm going to start with the pair that I used, which is 15 and 11, and I'm going to adjust the sign so that way I have it correct. So I know that one's positive, one's negative, to multiply to be negative, and I'm going to put the negative on the bigger number right there, and that clearly is too small. So I'm going to start to increase the 15 and decrease the 11. So does 210 divide by 16? No. Does 210 divide by 17? No. Does 210 divide by 18? No. Does 210 divide by 19? No. Does 210 divide by 20? No. 210 divided by 21? Yes. So 21 and 10. Negative 21 plus 10. Hey, there it is, 11. So I'm going to now split my problem up. Now remember, when you're doing this, when you're doing the split step, if there is a GCF on the outside, make sure to write it down. So here is the problem so far, and so here is my split. Notice how I'm writing everything down. So instead of the 11, I'm going to use minus 21 plus 10. And now I'm going to group and factor. So I look between the 15 and the 21, there is a 3. So I can write a 3. And then between the x squared and the x, there is a x1. So that leaves me with 5x minus 7. And I know that over here I must get 5x minus 7. And that means that this has to be a 2, a plus 2, in fact. 2 times 5, 10. 2 times 7 is negative 14. And these two are going to then factor out. And give me this. And there is my answer. So factoring out the GCF is really helpful right at the beginning. Now, if I had not factored out the GCF at the beginning, when I did my AC step, I would have been doing 30 times 28, which gives me 840, which is a huge number. And so it makes my problem that much more complicated, because I'm now dealing with numbers that multiply to 840 while adding to be negative 22. So looking for a GCF that goes all the way through and taking it out early is super helpful. All right, that's it for this. There's one more example that I want to do, and I'll catch that on the next video.